Well, welcome again to another episode of King's World. What's going on there, fellas and ladies out there? Looks like we're picking up. We're getting tons and tons of feedback. And GI is just happy as it can be because once again, something that King Kamali touched is blowing up. They love it, I love it, and you know what, guys? I'm doing this for you. And as a little side note, come on, haters. You're disappointing me, man. Usually you come back with all these, good things and you would really put me down. All I hear all the time is his face is bloated, come on, you can do better than that. Come on. If you're gonna hate, at least hate properly. I love you haters too, so bring it on. So, what are we gonna do this week? You know what? I've been talking about this for a couple weeks now, so now we're gonna bring it to you. I said I'm gonna bring back guests. So the first guest I'm gonna bring into my world, King's World, is the original, the one and only, the OG of all this bodybuilding and science and all this stuff. Whether you like to believe it, whether you like to hate on him or not, Amen Alai is the originator of all of this science bullshit, everything you can imagine when it comes to bodybuilding. He was the first, he's a legend, and I'm gonna bring him on and we're gonna ask him tough questions. We're gonna have a little bit of fun, and I'm gonna give you a little background before we get started. So let's get going. Boom. Okay, so I'm a teenager. I'm getting ready for my first show. It was called the AAU Mr. DC. And around my town, my area, the tri-state, Virginia, Maryland, and DC, we were a hotbed of bodybuilders. I was one of the young bucks coming up. We had several champions. I mean, it was just insane. Vince Taylor, Kevin Levrone, I mean, you name it. We had the hottest, biggest, baddest here on the East Coast in the United States, right there in the Virginia, DC, Maryland area. So as I'm coming up, I'm getting ready for my first show. I kept hearing about this guy named Adine and his brother Ameen, and how they're gonna do this and they're gonna do that. Man, in my mind, I was the best teenager. No one could touch me. I was gonna go straight to teen nationals, win my national title. Nobody could tell me different. We went to the first show, Mr. AAU, Mr. DC. What happened? We show up. I believe there was 11 teenagers. I mean, back then it was legit. 11 teenagers, and what happened? They called me and Adine out for comparisons. Just like everyone expected, the battle was on. And we battled. We definitely battled. He came out on top. I got second place. I'm telling you folks, I had no idea how to diet. I was eating corn pops and whole milk that morning. Corn pops and whole milk. I had no idea what I was doing. But I had the genes and I had the insanity in my brain to get up there and actually push Adine to the limits. And the kid was shredded. So after the show, I was upset, pissed off, crying. I couldn't understand. I didn't want to lose. Ameen approached me and said, we need to talk. And after that point, the whole new world opened up to me. Ameen taught me about carb depletion and what I'm doing wrong. I wasn't doing anything right. He just took me, and I was just a big bundle of genetics, and he took me to that next level. So that's how it all started. Adine, Ameen, and here we go. Amen Alai, welcome to King's World. So Ameen, welcome to King's World, man. It's so good to see you again, man.
Thank you, man. It's been a long time since we spoke, and I appreciate Generation Iron giving me a chance to be on the show.
Of course, man. All right, so just so you kids know out there, for everybody, this is part one, because I cannot have this guy on just for one time. And I'm going to keep bringing him back, but for now, this is part one, and part two, we're going to get into the dark side of things, but right now, it's more of an introduction thing. So, I gave him a little introduction. Why don't you tell these guys why I think you're the best and the original bad in this sport? Give them a little bit of Ameen talk.
Well, let's see. When I first met you, you were on a mission to get as much body weight as you could.
That's correct.
6 months out from your shows, a little bit more than 6 months out from the show, and I may be wrong about this, but I think you asked a lot of people to help you diet down, and pretty much, again, I'm not trying to be mean, but I think they all said stick to powerlifting because you were very strong. You were already benching 405. You were young. You were really strong, and you were pretty far off weight. And I told you then, I said, you're going to be a light heavy, and you told me there's no way in hell I'm going to be a light heavy.
I said no f***ing way I'm a light heavyweight, man. I'm a heavyweight.
Honestly, I think that was part of the reason that I tried so hard to get you in the craziest condition possible, was because, I really saw without any water and any fat on you what you would weigh. And it really was 198.25. And 6.5 or 6 months later, whenever we weighed on at the collegiates, the night before the show, you were 211. Is that correct?
It was up there. It was right around 210.
210. Okay. And then it was literally hours before weigh-ins, the same scale, and you said, I told you I was a heavyweight, and then my said, the show is not today, it's tomorrow. So the next morning you weighed in and you were exactly 198.25. I remember you looked back at me in amazement, like, how in the hell did this happen? And that's all part of the reason why I think you consider me to be the best.
Yeah, man. I mean, listen, I can tell, we can sit here and talk about the collegiate nationals over and over and over again. It was just an amazing experience. And I have it on video, and I'm going to upload little clips here and there of just listening to Ameen in the audience and how he was taunting Jim Mannion behind Jim Mannion's ear. And the quotes were, "Give him the trophy. This is a waste of time. He's already the champion." I mean, folks, I can't begin to tell you what Ameen was screaming. And why was he screaming that? Because it was King Kamali and everybody else. The conditioning that Ameen brought me in was insane. And it was so insane that even though, he's a criminal now and he's in prison, but Craig Titus was in the audience, and he was like a perennial top amateur in the country. He basically got up and said, "Who did this guy's conditioning? I'm going to hire him right now." And guess what? He hired Ameen that same day.
That's a true story.
True story.
And he trained the heavyweight for that show, and he swore his guy was going to win. And when I met Craig in it was at the mandatory meeting. You were asleep in the back. Craig was indoors with these, like, what do you call those cop glasses on, those dark cop glasses on, which obviously nobody wears those unless you're high. He was high out of his mind on coke.
He was high out of his mind.
The whole weekend he was high out of his mind on coke. Anyway, so then he tells me, I came up to him actually because nobody knew who I was. I said, "Aren't you Craig Titus? Didn't you come in a second in the USA's? What are you doing here?" Because, I figured this is a collegiate show. Why would he be there? Was he guest posing? I wasn't sure. And he said, "No, I trained the heavyweight. He's going to win the overall." And that's when I lowered my glasses and I said, and I told Craig right then, "You're about to see my client, Kamali, terminate this show." And from that moment on, he became King Kamali. He was the Terminator, and every moment after that was successful for him.
Yeah, man, it was great. I mean, I can't. Ameen taught me everything about carb depletion, about sodium loading. I mean, all the stuff that I use right now on my clients. And I look back on all the stuff that I learned throughout the years, and it was fun and it was great. And I give credit to all those gurus out there. But Ameen was the originator, without a question. He was the original. All right, so. Let's get rocking and rolling with King's World and the protocol. So we got questions here, and I'm going to throw it out at you, and then I'm going to give you my opinion, and then we move on to the next question. Rapid fire, okay? Question number one. Ameen, what's wrong with bodybuilding today? What's wrong with bodybuilding today?
In a simple nutshell, the phone. The phone has now so many features that people carry with them everywhere they go. And as a result of that, people don't focus on their workout. They spend their time, when they're in between their sets, they're on their phone. They may be doing social media. They may be taking pictures. It's not like it was before the phone. Before the phone, you did your set, and when you were ready, you did another set. It wasn't about, let me finish this text or let me take this picture. So I really think the phone in a lot of ways, and I'd recommend to everybody I work with, you know, unless you have to take pictures of yourself during that one time, don't make it a practice. Keep your phone in the locker and use training time to meditate and really, really get hardcore.
Good answer. I would say the internet, social media. I mean, there was a time where bodybuilders could have rest time and you could actually get small and get healthy and detox. Now, if you put one picture up and you're somewhat out of shape or don't look as big, example, Sean Roden, the whole world comes down on you, you suck, you're this, you're that, when you're actually just cleaning out and detoxing.
Which is what it used to be like, because everybody wore clothes and nobody took pictures of themselves, but now...
That's right, our baggy clothes with our hip bags, man. We should bring that back.
I love it.
Yeah, I know. All right, question number 2. Why is classic bodybuilding taking over the open division? Why?
It's more achievable. The average person can relate to classic physique or physique bodybuilding more than bodybuilding, because regardless of whether they have to use supplements or not, but they think that, you know, with hard work, it's actually achievable. Whereas with bodybuilding, even if you put a lot of hard work into it, I mean, you have to have really good genetics from the beginning. King, you had genetics to turn pro. I said it when you were young. I knew it. I didn't, because I don't have the bone structure and the ability to put on muscle, which is why I bailed out and didn't try to go for it. But I think that's the big difference. Now, someone like me, you know, when I was younger, wouldn't bail out of bodybuilding, and I would go into like physique, and I'd probably do really well. But
I think you would have done well too. I really think with your structure, you would have, and plus the muscularity and your conditioning, you would have been done well. I'm sort of 50-50. I say you're exactly right with what you just said. It's more attainable. And I'm also one of those guys that believes that if you want legs, you got to have a certain type of mentality and you got to have balls of steel to get those massive legs. And a lot of these kids don't want to do it.
You have to lift the heaviest weight to lift legs. A lot of these newer generation people are raised in different gyms. The gyms that we were raised in had more free weights, less machines. Machines started to evolve, and now someone can do a leg workout with multiple different angles and multiple different machines, never actually putting their body under the tremendous stress of a heavy squat, which makes the entire body grow. So
plus they look at like a Dexter Jackson now, and they say, well, Dexter doesn't squat. Well, Dexter's been doing this all his life. It's just like me. Right now, I don't really free squat anymore. I don't really do free weights. Why? Because I don't have to. I paid my dues, and now I let the machines and do, because the growth is already there. The muscle is already there. So again, I agree with you, man.
Let's not forget about Dorian too. He did switch to Smith machine squats, but he was already developed. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Next question. Which era was the best era of bodybuilding? Ameen.
You know, I would have to say the 90s, not just because that was kind of, well, yeah.
The kids nowadays are going to turn around. Let me play devil's advocate. They're going to turn around and say, man, that's because you guys were from the 90s, blah, 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 blah. What's your answer to those douchebags?
It's true. Here's the reason why, though, and I'm going to explain it in a scientific way so people understand. In the 90s, a lot of the drugs that people abuse now were just starting to use. The dosages were lower because people were scared of taking high dosages. Nobody did Trenbolone for a whole year. That was insane. Now you see people on the internet talking about, I do Blast and Cruise, and so that's the main difference, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And there was a time, I mean, remember, I know you're going to laugh your ass off. Remember Harvey? Anavar. No one has this shit. I mean, there was things that we didn't have.
The other day.
Plus, and don't forget, like these kids, we had Humatrope on dry ice delivered to us from a I'm not going to name names, but you know what I'm talking, from a hospital in the styrofoam, like professional. We had the best of the best. We didn't have Chinese blowhole little black tops and blue tops and pink tops and whatever the tops you want to talk about. We had that from a hospital.
it was either counterfeit or it was real. There was no UGL, and that's kind of what made a big difference. So when you took 200 milligrams of testosterone, you really knew that it was 200 milligrams because somebody at some point got it from a pharmaceutical warehouse or someplace where it was made for human consumption.
Yes, and then I always, last point real quick, I always say take the top five at the Mr. Olympia from the 90s, and any one of those guys could be Mr. Olympia today. Boom. Argument
if they
done.
Nailed it, 100%.
Finished.
100%.
So guys, that was part one with the guru, with the master, Ameen. Now we're going to take it to the last thing that I always do, 3 questions from all the fans. Let's go, question time. First question comes from, now I don't know why he did this, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is his screen name, folks. Albus Severus Snap Voldemort Dumbledore. That's his freaking screen name. All right, so this question is right up your alley, Ameen, and I'm going to ask you. Outside of progressive overload, correct diet, sleep, is there any way you can force additional growth beyond your genetic potential if you're a natural competitor?
First and foremost, but beyond everything else, you have to be extremely precise with your timing, because you don't have that anabolic substance in you, that anabolic glue, the steroids, whatever, that retain the nitrogen. So the minute your nitrogen starts to dip, you better have some ready, or else you're going to be, in a negative state. So my advice would be combine proteins so you have a release of nitrogen throughout the body, throughout the time frame between meals, and do not be late on your meals. And make sure you can digest your food.
There it goes. Good answer. Question number 2 from Mikey007. Which bodybuilder do you think had the greatest genetics of all time? Ameen.
Pro or not pro?
Pro.
Pro. Wow. I'd have to say Ronnie Coleman at this point.
So my answer would be Kevin Levrone. Why? Because he used to live around us. And I know because I saw it with my own eyes. This guy wouldn't eat, he wouldn't sleep, he wouldn't train, he wouldn't do nothing for 6 to 7 months. And then suddenly, for 2 weeks, he would go back into the gym and the triceps would be hanging, the shoulders will be popping. Yeah, baby. Yeah, full blown, baby. What the hell is this guy? And his legs will start popping out. Yeah. So, he was something. And you know what?
He still is. Look at him.
He still is, and true. And listen, and even Dorian, everybody said Kevin needs a back. Kevin went to England and trained with Dorian for a month and came back with a back. I mean, come on, guys. Kevin Levrone, mine, greatest genetics of all time. Last question from Dark Tweese. Okay, it's a good question. How come, Ameen, that when you train, and you stop training, your legs don't come back? Everything else comes back. And I think this question is going straight to Kevin Levrone, because we saw what happened at age 52. Legs, everything else came back except for his legs. Why?
I would think that it has to do with you reach a certain level. And the muscle has a fiber that remembers what it took to get there. So if you get to a certain level and it took a certain poundage of squat to get there, if you can't put that same weight up in that same repetition, you're not going to grow the same way. And there's a direct relationship between the damage that you do to your body, that you can inflict, the weight that you can put, the fiber that actually can withstand it, the changes that the fiber makes from the weight. And as a result of that, if you don't put it under the same stimulation, you're never going to have the same development. That's my opinion.
He couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said it better. That's a perfect answer. Yeah, you got to, once you stop, it's very difficult, especially with the fibers down below the waist. Okay, that was another episode, King's World. Remember, folks, this is part 1. We got part 2 coming up, again with the Master Blaster, with the Mad Scientist, with Ameen Alai. And next time, we're going to get into more dark stuff and get a little bit more funky with what you crazy motherfuckers in this sport want us to talk about. So, peace. Ameen, love you, man. Look at the shirt. Look at the guy's shirt. Come on, show it on.
This is what the real one looked like. The very
yeah, that is what the real one looked like. That is exactly what the real one looked like.
Exactly.
Come on, guys, you gotta love this guy.
Like.
You gotta love this guy. Love you guys. Peace. Ameen, say bye. We out of here.